Hello. Today I'd like to talk about kind of the argument and debate between dimensions of a given tank versus the gallon capacity of a given tank, and as far as which one's more important. Now, it's true that, you do need to have a certain amount of, gallons or displacement in order for a fish to have a good home where there's enough dispersal of waste materials and protein materials and things like that in order for the tank to be stable. But I'm going to say that dimensions actually matter more in most cases than the actual gallon capacity of the tank. Any tank that has the long dimension is, say a 20 long, 30 long, 40 long, any of those kinds of tanks are all going to have a distinct edge and advantage over, say, a standard 20, 30, or 40 gallon tank. Horizontal swimming room is crucial, especially for marine fish, feeling less cramped, having more space to, kind of swim around, graze, move in and out and around. And obviously, the less cramped a fish feels, the less aggressive it's going to be. So that is a real factor. So in my opinion, these websites that say, okay, well, this fish can go in a tank, a minimum tank size of 50 gallons, this fish can go in a tank with a minimum tank size of 70 gallons or whatever. Realistically, what they need to do is translate it and say, okay, this fish can go in, say, a 2-foot long tank, this fish can go in a 3-foot long tank, this fish can go in a 4-foot long tank, this one needs 5 feet, this one needs 6 feet, this one needs 8, These are all, in my opinion, far more useful than just saying gallons capacities, because there are so many different dimensions and everything for tanks. I've seen it happen where I've got a standard 90 gallon right here right behind me. It's a 4-foot long tank, 18 inches wide, and 2 feet top to bottom. But I see some individuals who have like a 93 gallon cube, and they can't stock a lot of the things that I do in mine simply because a 3-foot box, even though it's great for width, is not a good use of space for horizontal swimming room because you've only got 3 feet in length. That isn't to say you couldn't have some decent cool fish in there, like a Lubbock's wrasse or a flasher wrasse or something like that. But there's a lot of fish that I keep in my standard 90 that you couldn't keep in a 93 cube, such as, say, a 1-spot fox face, a coral beauty dwarf angel. In my opinion, a 3-foot cube would be pushing it a bit just because they need that extra, foot of horizontal swimming space. And so there's just various different things that just don't work, as well as, of course, a couple of my wrasses that are, they really need that 4-foot long length in order to get good running room, because they do. Even though my Melanaris, my blue star leopard are not fully grown, they definitely make use of every inch of space in my 90-gallon tank, as do most of my other fish. So anyways, the point is that dimensions are crucial. I've even seen some guys who have the really odd, like 90-gallon long tank, which actually has more options than my standard 90 does, because it's a 6-foot long tank, which actually is pretty cool in my opinion. So yeah, if you're looking at trying to build your tank and figure out what works best for you, what is a good option for you to maximize your stocking options, get some of those cool fish you really want, anything that's in the long dimension for the given gallon size or capacity is, in my opinion, going to maximize your options for stocking fish, and even give you some options that technically a tank of other tanks of your same gallon capacity are unable to handle simply because of the way in which the dimensions favor length. So anyways, that's kind of one of the things I'd like to look at as far as talking about, the gallon capacity versus dimensions. I would say that as a whole, dimensions are more important than actual gallon capacity, just simply because of the goofy way in which some of these tanks are built, what saltwater fish tend to use. Height, once again, as I've stated in other videos, in my opinion, is the most useless dimension. Once you get, if you've got between 18 and 21 inches of height, unless you're getting the biggest fish in the hobby, the additional height, all it does is cause, more work for you, because it's deeper, it's harder to get into and clean. It's more difficult to get good flow, good lighting to it. So the one other thing I will say, though, is that, of course, width does matter as well. If you've got a tank that's less than 18 inches in width, it's going to tend to be a bit more cramped. So I would recommend, length followed by about 18 inches of width, at least. Ideally, 2 feet of width would be nice. But those are kind of the dimensions that I would say maximize options. Now, obviously, if you're going for smaller fish, width doesn't matter quite as much as length does. So, say, for example, I would have no issues whatsoever putting a Lubbock's wrasse in, say, a 30-gallon long tank, but I definitely would have issues with putting a Lubbock's wrasse in a 32-gallon BioCube. They just don't have the same use of space and dimensions as they do in the 30 long. So anyways, that's kind of where I'm at with this, and just things to consider when you're looking at picking out a tank. I highly recommend going to a site like Live Aquaria, because they do make a real attempt at minimum tank sizes for fish. So, and just interpret it rather than gallon capacity. If something says that they need a 55-gallon tank, just interpret it that they need to have a 4-foot long tank minimum. If they say that they need, a 125-gallon tank, interpret that as that they need a 6-foot long tank minimum, and so on and so forth. So anyways, that's all I've got, and thanks for watching.